Okay. It was just New Mexico. Looked like a well-coached New Mexico team. But when it comes to the offense and Bryce Underwood and all of that, I'm not normally one to do this, but I told you so. Locked on Wolverines.
You are Locked On Wolverines, your daily podcast on the Michigan Wolverines. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Monday. We are back and doing it. Locked On Wolverines podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. I'm your man on the ground, Isaiah Hole, publisher of Wolverines Wire. Through USA Today Sports Media Group, was on the ground for the Wolverines versus New Mexico, 34-17. We're going to get into that all. So first off, thank you to all of our everydayers. Thank you for making us your first listen. Very excited to get into the game. We're obviously going to start off just talking about kind of the traditional, like, what went right, what went wrong, and where do we go from here type of things. Though segment 1, what went right, segment 2, what went wrong, and segment 3, where does Michigan go from here? So 34-17, I thought when it's kind of funny because you look at what it was, right, in terms of like just the yardage disparity, and Michigan, I think, could have scored more points. So I'm kind of getting ahead of myself in the what went wrong here. But I mean, 452 yards total offense here, 251 yards passing for Bryce Underwood, 31 pass attempts, 21 makes there, averaged 8.1. Again, remember last year Davis Warren was 5.7. And the team was 5.4 in terms of yards per attempt. So to get to that point where you're at 8.1, again, the New Mexico disclaimer is valid. I do think that they, based off of what we saw from them, they were very well coached. So I think that that's at least worth noting. Now they're going to face tougher competition literally this week, but that's a good start for Bryce Underwood. And he was as advertised. So to me, there was no surprise, but like, you know, to you, maybe there would have been. But I do definitely think that like he showed, I think the most important things were poise. And honestly, the willingness to go out and block for Justice Haynes on that one play, that's got a lot going for it. Because that shows his teammates he's that dude. He's not all about Bryce Underwood. That's a huge thing. And you know, like, even though like today it's like you've heard multiple guys on his team be like, yeah, we wish you don't do that, especially with your throwing shoulder. But like that got us hyped up at the same time. You know, like that's one of those things where it's like you can't script that. But like that's the type of thing that'll get your whole team. And they already had kind of galvanized around him. But that's the type of thing that will really get your team like behind you. And you could see that, and like just like he never looked rattled. The moment never looked too big for him. And I understand, again, it's just New Mexico, but this is Bryce's first time playing in front of a crowd of this magnitude. I mean, granted, it's also, you know, Jack Lane over at New Mexico's first time playing in front of a crowd of that magnitude. But, you know, that's you never really know, right? Like that's something the coaches often talk about. Like you never really know until the lights turn on. And that's like where spring game is a nice little precursor to kind of like, okay, which guys are doing it behind the scenes that can also do it over on, you know, on actual Main Street. And Bryce did it. And he made all kinds of throws that were just those wow throws. Now, not any of those massive downfield ones yet, but still like game 1, he himself, a true freshman, played better than any quarterback did last year. He accumulated more yards. He showed more pocket awareness. He showed more ability to go through reads. Like the pre-snap was good. The post-snap was good. Even of the the 10 incompletions, like there were at least 3, if not more, that certainly could and should have been completed. He made a couple of the big plays. Everyone's going to talk, rightfully, I think, about the 3rd and 14. I think the pass to Kendrick Bell in particular was pretty big because it was one of the few plays where it felt like he was really kind of under pressure, and he rolls out and he finds his guy who it's like, and like, that's the type of connection that we've wanted to see. I think being able to spread it around to 8 different pass catchers, whether it was a tight end, wide receiver, or a running back. Now let's talk about Marlon Klein, man. That dude, like, we've said we want to see it first, right? Like, they talk about him like he's going to be, that tight end this year. But he had a lot of opportunities last year with Colston's injury, and we never really quite saw it. But this time we did. 93 yards, leading everybody with 6 catches. Shannon Goodwin is the same thing, right? Like, after the spring game, yeah, I was skeptical, but for 2 catches for 49 yards, I mean, that's really big. Samaj Morgan looked like he was being put in a position to succeed. The Chip Lindsey offense already just looks vastly different. Now, my kind of big overarching takeaway of the game was that the good looked really, really good. Way better than any of the good last year. Gives you way more confidence. But the bad was still kind of just like, you felt like there was some moments where they were stuck in the mud. And we'll get to that in segment 2, but I think just to talk about the good, I mean, the offensive line mostly protected. They mostly opened up holes. I mean, obviously, we got to talk about Justice Haynes. There's a reason why he's the name that I've been saying all along. I know they've been saying 1A, 1B. I've been pretty clear going back to the early offseason that Justice Haynes was my number 1. And that's not a slight on Jordan Marshall at all. Love Jordan. But, like, you saw what Haynes is able to do. Again, New Mexico caveat, but like, still, he did it. None of the other running backs did. Not a lot of got many opportunities. I really only saw him and Marshall and Capana. Capana only had one carry, and he left the field elevating his wrist a bit. So I'm not sure what the deal is there. We didn't ask Jerome today. I know I could have, but we didn't. But yeah, I think that, like, you saw, like, the glimpses. Now, them getting stuck in the mud and then the 2-minute drive. I mean, considering the adversity they'd suddenly found themselves in, with the fumbled punt and all of that, the defense holds to a field goal, fumbled kick return, and defense holding to a field goal. And then you got a minute and a half to drive the field, and Bryce, it's like cutting through butter with a hot knife. Like, they just march down, and it's just to see that engineered by a true freshman at the level it was is not something you are accustomed to seeing at Michigan at all. So the good, I'll say this, they've got to become more consistent. This wasn't the blowout that I hoped, and I thought coming into the post game here that my thought would be a 17-point win against New Mexico. Probably not going to inspire confidence, but this did, because it minus like a couple different things, right? Whether if Michigan goes for it on that 4th down and makes it, if the fumbled kick doesn't happen, and just a couple of little things, just like the drops don't happen. I know these are things that are part of the game. The Jaishawn Barham targeting, that doesn't happen. If they don't call that targeting, they don't call that roughing the passer, they let that stand, which I personally believe is the right call. Right? According to Sean Moore, Tony Petitti agrees, but he's not the one that makes that decision. I think the game looks a lot better and different. So there's things to clean up. Not everything's under the control of Michigan here, but I think that it inspired a lot of confidence. And I would say this. Offensively, this, at least unlike kind of in the past, I think, like, if they go and have to go toe-to-toe with the Oklahoma offense, it might be premature to say that they can do it, but I will at least say that it looks like they might be able to, whereas it never necessarily felt like that, even when Michigan was just running roughshod over everyone from 2021 through 23, right? Like, there's a reason why the Fiesta Bowl was just slightly out of reach, because Michigan was not used to playing from behind. This looks like a team that might be able to. So we'll see. Let's get into the defense and the things that I want to see cleaned up before next week. Again, I'm not at all in any kind of panic about anything here. So we'll explain more about that here in just a moment. But before we do, quick question for all of you college football fans out there. If you could go back in time and sit front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, which obviously is Rutgers. You know, it's storied rivalry. What hat would you be wearing? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. You saw me wearing it on I believe Thursday show or Wednesday show, whatever day I did it with Jack Tuttle. These aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles that fans wore back in the 80s and 90s. And guess what? They still go for the same price that they did back then. When you use the code Locked On, you'll get your vintage hat for $16.99. So head to thegamecaps.com, grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design, and use the code Locked On for an exclusive discount, because legends wear the game. All right, we're going to continue on here momentarily, but before we do, I know a lot of you had to have used Game Time to get into the last week's game. You're going to want to do that again going to Norman, Oklahoma, because college football is back. I could not be more excited. I can't wait till the game tonight. North Carolina and somebody. I don't even remember who. I don't even remember. I just remember North Carolina, but I'm excited to watch it. The tailgates, the rivalries, energy in the stands is just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting tickets can feel more of a battle than the game itself. With endless queues, hidden fees, prices jumping up at checkout. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives you the advantage. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees, with seat views. The zone deals, it makes it so easy. I pulled up Game Time, and in just a few taps, I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. Or I think they pay you to go to a Michigan State game. I think that's how that works. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today. All right. I gotta hydrate here. So I got a message from Steve Dace one night because I'm drinking this A&W ice cream sundae, and he's like, "You weren't kidding. It's like the best thing ever." We're not sponsored by this. I'm just telling you, it's like the best thing ever. It tastes like an ice cream sundae. It's incredible. I absolutely love it. All right. So some things I didn't like, obviously, in this game. I would have liked to have seen, Justice Haynes, incredible. 200 yards, almost, well, not 200, but that's what they had rushing total. Averaged almost 10 yards a carry, 16 for 159, with 3 touchdowns, hat trick in his very first game as a Wolverine. You saw the SEC speed. He looked absolutely incredible. Wanted to see more from Jordan Marshall, though. And I wanted to see a little bit more from the offensive line, because here's the funny thing. I felt generally better about the pass blocking than I did the run blocking, despite the fact that, obviously a couple plays into the game, long touchdown. Gaping hole, just times where it just didn't feel like the holes were really there. And all fall camp, the insider notes here were that the run blocking was ahead of the pass blocking. And it didn't necessarily look like that in the game, to me, at least. And I have to rewatch it, but that's where we're at there. I think that there was just a lot to like about a lot of different things, but like that, obviously the defense getting kind of Texased with the quick game, the delayed screens, the tight end screens. I mean, screen. That definitely hurt Michigan. Now, the good thing is even though it took all game to get to the 3 sacks, you could watch that game and see and feel like, all right, like this is a rush that is formidable. And it's going to force a lot of teams to kind of do what they don't necessarily want to do, right? Like if a team says we're going to run our offense and it's going to be more of a traditional 5-step drop, then they're going to be in trouble. Because again, New Mexico caveat, but it seemed like almost every play, if it wasn't a quick handoff or like basically take a step back and throw it, that there was someone that was right there in Jack Lane's face. Like the defense was fast, man. And the linebackers were fast. And that's where, like, after seeing Jimmy Rolder and Cole Sullivan, I'm kind of not like that upset that you're not going to have Jaishawn for one half. Now, you would love to be full strength for Oklahoma, but like, it's like, just like injuries are a part of a game, and he's not injured, but it's a thing where it's like, okay, well, you feel like it's almost like he's injured for a half and then you get him. So like that can kind of work for you in some ways. I think like there's not going to be much of a drop off there. I think that's great. But like, man, they played fast. I thought the DBs looked really good, but they just had those moments where it's just like, man, they just get misdirectioned. Like the first touchdown that New Mexico scored was a trick play, right? Like that's the type of thing where it's like, you know, that it's hard to defend against that. And I don't think Oklahoma is necessarily going to be coming out with like a bunch of, I mean, I don't want to say misdirection because they have plenty of misdirection. And I haven't studied Oklahoma, but I've seen them. But like, I don't think there's necessarily going to be a scenario where it's like, you know, like that's the only way they're going to be able to do anything type of deal, right? Like that's kind of what New Mexico's deal was. And they were smart. And like, when I say they were well coached, I think at the end of the game, you could really see how well coached they were because as they were driving the field, they were getting the ball to the sideline and getting out of bounds. They were just very well disciplined. And I thought that, you know, it's hard to go up against that sometimes, even if it is a lesser team. Like it's kind of like Novi Catholic Central playing against Belleville. Belleville had more raw talent in that playoff game, but they lost to Catholic Central because Catholic Central was so disciplined. Like Michigan was in no danger of losing to New Mexico. They said on the sidelines, it felt really early, like kind of the Glenn Powell in Top Gun Maverick. Thanks for the beers. Come back anytime. You know, like that's as they're getting thrown out. That's how it felt for, you know, a lot of it. But those are the things that like need to be tightened up. Okay, you just got screened to death. Now, my question here is, no one's ever going to tell me this, and certainly not at Michigan. But like the way that I look at it is, as much as they prepare game, you know, week by week, game for each game and all of that stuff, like there's no way that like Wink Martindale and Sharon Moore didn't have this Oklahoma game circled. Sharon can come out and say it's not about me, it's not about Oklahoma, my alma mater, all of that stuff. He can say that all he wants. But at the same time, I feel like it is though. Like it's, you know, I feel like behind the scenes, like sometime in the summer or, you know, spring, whatever it might be, like they had their eyes on this game because it only makes sense to. Like, yeah, you got to take care of business, but like, I wonder how much of like some of the things on either side of the ball, right? Like we didn't see Bryce have any designed runs. We didn't see like them really go downfield. Like, yeah, they were vertical, but like they didn't really go downfield the way that I know that they have been doing in practice and all that kind of stuff. So how much are they holding back? And how much kind of was it like, let's just get this game won and get out of here? And that's partly why I'm not that upset about it being a 17-point win, right? That and just like the little things, the Jaishawn targeting thing was like such a momentum shift, right? Like you went from it being 34-10 or whatever it was would have been at the time, 31-10, something like that, to it being 20, was it, maybe it was 27, yeah, 27-17. So I think that changed things quite a bit, you know, not giving them the ball like where they did with the Andrew Marsh fumble. I mean, I think that changed things too. So you just can't make those types of mistakes. Going into Oklahoma, it's got to be, again, two of the three phases need to be really working. So that's where I'm at with that. All right, we're going to continue on. Where does Michigan go from here? Is now we're going to start looking towards the Sooners in Norman. Exciting stuff. Let's get to that here in just a moment. But before we do, guys, you have probably heard of Viagra or Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them, but if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rougiette Ready. Rougiette is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rougiette's 3-in-1 formula dissolves under your tongue and kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. If traditional options haven't worked, Rougiette might be the answer. Over 150,000 men have already made the switch. It's completely online. Rougiette connects you with a board-certified doctor and ships your treatment discreetly to your door. You can even read real customer reviews on their site. It's helping a lot of people feel more confident and present in the moment. So head to Rougiette.com/LockedOnCollege and use the code LockedOnCollege. Get 15% off today. That's RUGIET.com/LockedOnCollege and use the promo code LockedOnCollege for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, manufacturing review. Please visit Rougiette, the website Rougiette, for full safety information. All right, we gotta wrap this up because my stomach's growling. It's Labor Day. I want to not be laboring. I want to be eating. That's where we're at. So now that we know the good and the bad, where does Michigan go from here? I think that there's a lot to build on. Here's the thing. Bryce Underwood's first game, and he already looked basically, I mean, like kind of like what I said. Was he as good? I mean, he didn't necessarily showcase as good as JJ McCarthy, but it felt like it didn't feel any different, essentially, than having JJ McCarthy out there. And it was his first game. So JJ wasn't thrown to the wolves as quickly as Bryce is going to be. So it's going to be really interesting. Because remember, JJ, while he did get some time in some early games, right? You know, year one, he played in all the games, but it was, you know, just a quick change of pace type of thing. Bryce has got a lead. And in year two, JJ started in week 2 against Hawaii, but like we didn't really get to see JJ against like a more premier team until Penn State later that year, and that was really the Blake Corum and Donovan Edwards show. I think the good thing is here about Oklahoma is they allowed like about 200-ish yards to Illinois State on the ground, and they did not rush. They didn't rush well. They were averaging like 3 yards a carry. That, in a lot of ways, can be playing into Michigan's hands. Now, obviously, Michigan's got to stop the pass. If you don't stop the pass, then you've got some problems, especially because Mateer threw for almost 400 yards. But again, even more of a caveat. When I sit and say New Mexico caveat, it's even more when you're playing an FCS team. So if you against an FCS team, if they can run all over you and you can't run on them, that poses a little bit more of a problem. So I think for Michigan, the key obviously is to be able to establish the run early, because you can lean on that. You can control, you know, have some ball control and stuff like that. Michigan did not win the time of possession battle this last game. And there were some stretches in the second quarter that felt like they were setting drives on fire a little bit. So, you know, you wonder like, okay, you got that out of your system and you saw some smart play calling, a lot smarter play calling in general. And, you know, I know Oklahoma is going to be like, we're going to put it on Bryce Underwood's shoulders. Well, he's shown that he can potentially do that. Now, it's not fully up to him. It's going to, again, like, to go biblical with it, bear fruit in keeping with repentance. So it's kind of the idea here that, you know, we want to see a track record of the wide receivers, the offensive line, doing the things that they're capable of doing, showing that they can do this type of stuff against higher level competition. You would love to have 2022 schedule right now, but you don't. So let's live in reality. And I think because, like what I said earlier, you saw an offense that looked like it's capable of being explosive. They were a heck of a lot more explosive than they were last year. They are capable of doing that. Bryce did not look rattled. Got to see it again. Unfortunately, more importantly, in a game like this, what does Michigan have planned? That's the big question. And Oklahoma's probably turtling to some degree too. So we'll see what it ends up being. But man, I was very encouraged by that. Clean up the short fields. Be smarter. Don't have there was just one turnover. They won the turnover battle. Michigan did. So like the keys are going to be like who wins the turnover battle, who can run the ball more consistently. And I think that those will be still the thing that's more important, right? So it'll be interesting because I don't think it's going to come down to like if Michigan runs for 200 yards again, I think that they're probably in a good shape no matter what happens on the other side. But you also got to get touchdowns, not field goals. And we'll see, because there were just, again, those moments where like, again, the bad looked similar to the bad last year, where just they got stuck in the mud all of a sudden. But then they broke out in ways that you just generally didn't see last year. So that's good. All right, that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for watching. Thank you for listening. We are going to talk to you again a la mañana. Peace.